Hello, everybody, and welcome here up at BSN Network. Today is Tuesday, April 12th. We're coming off another big night last night in the world of sports, and it is Tuesday, April 12th, like I said. Tonight is the play-in games for the Brooklyn Nets and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Nets Cavs tonight, 7 Eastern for the play-in, and the right to go to the postseason or to the playoffs, because this is kind of the play-in to get into the postseason. If the Nets win tonight, they will be matched up with the Boston Celtics, which will start up on Sunday. So a lot of excitement, a lot of anticipation. I'm definitely, pumped up for tonight's game with the hope that the Brooklyn Nets can pull it out and get the win tonight. Last night was a real tough night for New York baseball. I talked very highly of how it went over the weekend, but just how it could go so good, it could also just go so bad. Last night, the Yankees' bats were not existent. Alek Manoah pitched a great game for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I said it yesterday. Yesterday I said it was going to be a tough game. Manoah has had our number. He made his first career start against us. That game, I remember that game last year. We only had 2 hits. It was Miguel Andujar who had the only 2 hits. So he's had our number. He pitched against us again. He's had our number. He's been a kind of a young Yankee killer, and I believe he's pitched against us 3 times in his career. So he's kind of been a young Yankee killer in his career, and he had a good performance yesterday. And the Yankees yet again couldn't get the big hit with runners in scoring position, and that's kind of what happened last year, and we were hoping that didn't happen this season. And over the weekend, on Friday and Saturday, the Yankees were getting the big hit with runners in scoring position. They were coming back into games. And then yesterday, or on Sunday, we left 11 runners on, and then yesterday yet again, we have runners on, and we don't do anything with them, and they get shut out. So Yankees lose 3-0, and it's a classic bullpen explosion for the Mets. They were winning 4-0, and you go to the bottom of the 8th, and the Phillies put up a 5 spot and win 5-4. So a bad loss for the New York Mets. They blow the lead in the bottom of the 8th. They blow a 4-run lead in the bottom of the 8th. And for the Yankees, they get shut out at home against a very good Blue Jays team that's going to be a threat all season. So a really tough night last night for New York baseball. Both teams will look to bounce back today. Yankees at home against the Blue Jays. Second game of the 4-game set today. And the Mets will be back in Philly for the second game of a 3-game set today. You wonder if the Mets come out with a little extra fire tonight, given the way last night went. So Rangers also on tonight. So you got the Rangers tonight, along with the Yankees and the Mets, like I said. So you got Rangers tonight, Yankees, Mets, and the Islanders as well host the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight at UBS Arena. I don't know why I said UBC. UBS Arena in New York. So Islanders at home, Rangers at home, Yankees at home, Nets at home. Mets are the only team on the road. So a lot going on in New York tonight with the Rangers, Yankees, Islanders, Nets all being home. Mets are the only team on the road. So a lot going on tonight and a lot to get to today on this Tuesday edition of the BSN Network podcast. So let's get to the topics for today's podcast. We're going to start off with the Nets and Cavs. So we're going to have one topic today. I'm going to really take a deep dive into tonight's game between the Nets and the Cavs. Hopefully this is the only preview I got to do, because if I have to do another, that means the Nets lost tonight. So I'm hoping that tonight is the only game that the Nets have to play in the play-in, and they move on. So we'll get to the Nets, talk about the game, give you kind of the projected starting lineups, what to expect for both the Nets and the Cavs, and I'll give you my game pick and kind of give you the expectations and a little bit of a preview. We're going to preview the game, like I said, kind of just take a deep dive into it, look at all of what needs to go right for the Brooklyn Nets if they want to win tonight's game and move on. So tonight's the playing game, 7 Eastern on TNT, nationally televised games for those of you who usually don't get the Nets game. So nationally televised, and then later tonight you will have the Timberwolves Clippers as well, and that will be a nationally televised game as well. So Nets Cavs tonight at Barclays Center. Obviously the Nets got the home court advantage. They were the 7 seed, Cavs are the 8 seed. And then we'll finish off with the New York sports update as always. Islanders, Rangers, Nets, Yankees all tonight. Yankees look to bounce back. Maybe they score a run tonight. We'll see. nasty Nestor Cortez, will be on the mound tonight for the Yankees. And I believe Yusei Kikuchi, I believe, is on the mound for the Blue Jays, but I would probably have to double check. And for the Mets, I believe tonight is Tyler McGill and Zach Wheeler, and in Game 3 of the series tomorrow will be Scherzer and Aaron Nola. So 2 back-to-back good pitching matchups for the Mets and the Phillies, obviously tonight and then tomorrow night. So with that being said, a lot to get to today on the podcast, and this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So tonight, a lot going on, but we got the Brooklyn Nets and the Cleveland Cavaliers playing tonight in the play-in game, the 7th seed versus the 8th seed. And the winner of this will move on to play the Boston Celtics in the first round of the NBA playoffs. And the loser of this will have to play the winner of the 9-10 game that's going on tomorrow night. So I'm hopeful that the Nets can win tonight. I continue to say it tonight, and Kevin Durant and the Nets have continued to say it. Tonight the Nets got to treat this game like a Game 7. It's a win or go home situation. That's how you got to treat it. Because if you lose tonight, you put yourself in a really risky situation, having your season come down to one game against either the Hornets or the Hawks, and that being 2 teams that are young and fast and quick and playing very hard because they want to get in. And those are 2, the Hornets and the Hawks have a lot less pressure on them because, let's be honest, nobody expects the Hornets or Hawks to do anything in the postseason. The expectation for the Nets is a lot of people expect them to go deep and far into the postseason with the tandem of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Hopefully Ben Simmons comes out of hiding eventually and can go ahead and play. I don't know when that will be. If that even is this season, we'll see. But tonight we got the Nets and the Cavs. And look, the Nets, like I said, at the beginning of the season, I talked a little bit about this yesterday. At the beginning of the season, if you would have told me the Nets would have to be playing a play-in game in order for the right to go to the postseason against the Cleveland Cavaliers, I would have thought you were crazy. And I would have also thought you were crazy if James Harden would have gotten traded in the middle of the season. Because going into this year, the expectation for the Nets was be the first seed, come out of the East, and cruise your way through the postseason and win a championship. But obviously the mandates got in the way. Harden, the major trade happened. A lot of stuff happened. Craziness struck. Nets won 44 games. That was not what a lot of people expected. I believe the Nets win total at the beginning of the year was set at like 56 and a half. Nets won 44. So it was a wild regular season. But you got to completely forget about the regular season, as I've always said. In every sport, the regular season doesn't matter when the postseason comes around. And even though the Nets are 3-1 against the Cavs in the regular season this year, that means absolutely nothing when the postseason comes around. So Nets got to go play hard tonight because you're going to get the Cavs' best shot because you're going to get both teams the best shot. But the big reason why you're going to get the Cavs the best shot, Cavs at the beginning of the year were projected to win 27 games. They've won 44. They have completely surprised the league. They've completely surprised people of how good and young and up and coming this Cleveland Cavaliers team. They're a fast, they're a young, they're a quick team. And they're a very energetic team. They're a team that plays with a lot of energy. They get on rolls. They get on runs. You allow them to get on a 6-8-0 run, they can make a big difference. You don't get off to a quick start in any quarter or to start the game or start the half. They're going to get up on you. They're going to tie the game. They're going to score. They're going to score. They're going to score. They're going to score. They're going to be quick. They're going to be good on defense. They're going to steal. They're a quick, fast, young team. They got young guys like Darius Garland and, Evan Mobley. They got young guys with a lot of energy. They're playing with a lot of spunk. LeVert's still young. Okoro's still young. I mean, they're rolling with one of the younger lineups in all of basketball. So they're a young team. They're quick. They're a fast team. So Nets got to come out and counter that because if you're the Brooklyn Nets, you have to come out and get off to quick starts. And I continue to say that. Nets cannot afford to fall down in this game early on. You can't fall down in the first half, go into the first half down 10. Because the Nets have always been known this season for coming out in the second half off the slow starts, and I'll get to that in a second. The Nets can't fall down to like a 10-point deficit going into halftime. The Nets need to be winning at halftime if they want to win this game, I believe. Because the Cavs are a very fast team, and once they get ahead of you, they can really, really, really start pounding you on defense and offensively getting to the basket and scoring. So the Nets got to counter that with play your game, assist, pass, right? Use, take time. Like, the Nets need to counter it by slowing things down a little bit. Sometimes I feel like the Nets, and we've seen this a little bit recently, sometimes they get jumpy and they're passing the ball over the place and they're taking bad shots. That's not going to win you this game because Cavs are going to make you pay for that. And so are the Boston Celtics when you got to play them. So the Nets kind of have to calm down, slow the pace of the game down if you want to beat the Celtics or the Cavs. And they've done that. I mean, on Friday when they played them, they slowed the game down. Right? They fed, they passed, they made screens, they got to the basket, they made shots, they had quality looks, they slowed things down. If you try to speed things up and you start taking bad looks, that's when the Cavs feed off of that and they start scoring and playing defense and getting steals, and that's when sloppy turnovers happen. So Nets got to cut off to a quick start. They got to play their game, right? As I've always said this in sports. You can't try to play to another team's level. Like, the Cavs are a very fast-paced team. You can't try to play to their level. You're going to have to play. They're they're a young team. They're a quick team. They're a team that, they shoot a lot. They get to the basket a lot. They're tough on defense. They're an all-around young, solid team. Are they the most talented team? No, because they're still, they're still progressing. They're still getting better. They're still developing. So they haven't even reached their peak yet. But I've always said this in sports. If you want to win games, you have to really, if you want to win games, you got to really, if you want to win games, you gotta do the opposite of what the other team's doing. Like, if it's a fast-paced team, you can't try to play fast-paced like that team. That's not gonna work. You need to slow things down. So that's what the Nets need to do today. Play their game. Nets play a little bit of a slower kind of paced game. They get the ball, they dribble, pass, get to the basket. Now, I'm not talking about dribble out 18 of the 24 seconds on the shot clock and take a bad look. No. Pass, feed. Like Kevin Durant, dish out assists. He had, 15 or 16 assists the other day on Pacers? Like, assist. Play. Like, come on. Like, you gotta fundamentally, you gotta have a clean game for the Nets, and you gotta limit the turnovers. Because the Cavs are gonna make you pay. And one other thing is, if you're the Brooklyn Nets, you got to. If you go into halftime with, like, a 10-point lead, you gotta come out with the second half firing. You can't possibly go into halftime with a lead, come out in the second half, let the Cavs get on like an 8-0 run and cut that lead to 2, and all of a sudden 3 minutes later you're looking at a deficit. You're looking at an 8-point deficit instead of a 10-point lead. So another thing for the Nets to do. But I would agree. Talent-wise, the Nets are more talented. I think that's pretty clear. I think the Nets are one of the more talented teams in all the league. So talent-wise, the Nets are definitely more talented. But in terms of slopping, turnovers and stuff, Nets got to make sure they control those. Because if they don't do that, it's going to be a long day. So, Nets have Kyrie Irving, Seth Curry, Bruce Brown, Kevin Durant, Andre Drummond tonight. That's the projected lineup. Now, Seth Curry is kind of a game-time decision day-to-day. I'd assume he tried to push through and play. But if he doesn't, it's probably going to be something like a Kessler Edwards that slots in there, and then Goran Dragic, who just got off of health and safety protocols, I guess would be good to go. Obviously, Ben Simmons still out. Seth Curry is more of a game-time decision. So, you probably just slot Kessler Edwards in there, which is what the Nets have been doing, which isn't the end of the world. You can look at it one of two ways. You could go ahead and say Seth Curry could either take the night off and Seth Curry could easily take the night off and not play. No, I shouldn't say take the night off. Not play in the hopes of recovering, getting ready for the first round, or they go all out, just win this game and move on. And the Cavs would be countering with a very similar lineup, and I put these together just based off of what I've seen this season. It would probably be something like Darius Garland, Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro, Lauri Markkanen, and Evan Mobley, because I believe Jarrett Allen's not going to play. The reports are he ain't going to play. So unless there's something drastically changes, it doesn't look like he's going to play. So he's going to be out, which is a huge loss for the Cavs. You're talking about one of the better big mans in the league. I really do believe Jared Allen's up in that category in terms of rebounding, finishing, and all around just a solid asset as a big man. So it's going to look like something like Irving on Garland, and you're probably going to see a lot of double to triple teams. So you're going to see Bruce Brown's role get increased, which is a lot of people have been complimenting Bruce Brown, and I'm on people's side when they say this, but I mean, Bruce Brown has been playing at a very high level. He's been making a lot of shots. He's been a really key contributor for us. And it's been great, but a big reason for that is because teams are double-teaming KD. And, Bruce Brown's guy, like an Okoro and a Garland, might go over, and Bruce Brown cuts to the net. KD passes to him, and he's got a nice, easy lane basket. So, KD getting double-teamed and Bruce Brown being open on those double teams have been pivotal for the Nets. So something to look out for tonight too is if Bruce Brown can get going early, get into the net, connecting on his little floaters that he shoots, those little floaters that he shoots. That some nights he's on with those, and other nights he can't make them. But when he's on with those, he's a key asset. And Bruce Brown's numbers have been increasing big time. So you obviously add that into the equation too. If the Cavs do decide to double KD, which I'm sure is going to happen a lot, especially if he gets going early, Bruce Brown's got to look out for, and Kessler Edwards too, another guy, guy that can stretch the floor a little bit, can definitely shoot a little bit, but more, kind of mid-range guy, could feed, as couple says, kind of just another body out there to have, another threat. If Seth Curry doesn't play, a young asset that can bring a little bit of speed to the table. And like I said, Ben Simmons is out. So the main two pieces that are out is going to be Ben Simmons, Jared Allen, and Seth Curry is is up in the air. If I had put money on it, I'd probably say he plays. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. I think he would play just because it's the play-in and it's a big game. I mean, it's a huge game. I mean, you lose this game, you put yourself in a really high-risk situation with it coming down to one game. So get the job done tonight. Hopefully the Nets do. Both teams come into this one 44-38. And some other numbers on this game. I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but the ESPN Basketball Power Index projects the Nets to win. So 71.4%, according to ESPN Basketball's Power Index, Nets have a 71.4% chance to win. So the Nets are obviously the favorites here. There's no doubt. I believe they should be the favorites. I believe they are the favorites. They are the favorite. That's facts. And I believe the Nets are the better team than the Cavs. I mean, they went 3-1 against them in the regular season. That doesn't mean anything now because it's the postseason. It's a whole new game. But the fact is, they went 3-1, and they're playing good, and they're 6-4 in their last 10. They're on a nice win streak to finish out the regular season. I know that doesn't mean everything, but they got momentum. They're at home court advantage. Barclays is probably going to be loud tonight. It's a postseason game. It's going to be a postseason atmosphere. I am pretty optimistic about tonight's game. There are some games where I have no optimism whatsoever, and there are some games where I have a lot of optimism. I will admit, the Nets-Bucks series, I did not have a ton of optimism going into that. I just didn't. Now, Nets got off to a 2-0 start. I had a ton of optimism. But Game 7, I didn't have a whole lot of optimism of the Nets-Bucks game, I will admit. Now, when the Nets got off to a good start, I started to feel good. Usually the day of my team's games, I get a feeling of whether or not, I feel good about it. Like the Jets sometimes, I get sometimes, day of the game, although my game pick might say they're going to lose, day of the game, sometimes I get a good feeling and they might win. But I got a good feeling about tonight's game, I do. And I've been very hard on the Nets this season. I mean, I've had my fair share of complaints about this team with everything they've gone through, everything that they've done this season. But they've had the Cavs number this year. They're playing really well going into it. I mean, it really does come down to, too, whether you're a Net fan or not a Net fan, whether you care about basketball or don't care about basketball. I shouldn't say care about basketball. Whether you're a Net fan or you're not a Net fan, whether you're a Cavs fan or not a Cavs fan, whether you're a basketball fan in general, it really comes down to the Nets still have 2 top 5 players in the world in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So they still have 2 of some of the best basketball players on the planet, in KD and Kyrie. So the Nets automatically have that advantage. My biggest worry with the Nets is, and I've said it all along, is their depth. What do the pieces around Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving do. If Andre Drummond plays like he did on Sunday against the Pacers, where he was dominant, then Nets easily win this week. But if the Nets outside of Kevin Durant and Kyrie can't shoot, if you have Patty Mills taking 6 threes and he makes one of them, that's when there's reason to be concerned. So that's my biggest thing with the Nets, and that's been my biggest concern with the Nets this offseason. It's not, or this entire season, it's not Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving. It's the pieces around them. Because sure, there's a lot of pieces around them that could do damage, but are they? Because it's been very inconsistent, and that's why the Nets' record is what it is, 44-38. If the Nets had better pieces around them, this is a 60-win team. But they've gotten rid of a lot of the pieces, brought in some other pieces that really haven't fit great. So, the Nets still have the advantage in terms of Nets have 2 of the best basketball players in the world in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. It's what those pieces around them do. Does Andre Drummond have a night like he did the other night on Sunday afternoon at Barclays against the Pacers? Or does he have a night where he can't make anything, he's at the free throw line, he's missing shots? If Steph Curry plays, is he 100%? Is he 100%? And can he be relied on in big spots? Bruce Brown, is he going to continue to play like he is, or is he going to have nights where he goes 1 for 7 from shooting layups? So a lot of those things. Bruce Brown's hot. The Nets are getting hot at the right time. So there is reason to be optimistic. There's reason to be hopeful. So I'm going to roll with the Nets tonight. I think the Nets do win this game. Nets are 9.5-point favorites, like I said, this game goes on tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern at Barclays Center. It's on TNT. And I think the Nets win and move on to the first round to play the Boston Celtics. And like I said, too, if we win today, we have a nice long layoff. We won't have to play again until the first round, the Eastern Conference first round. The Celtics versus whoever wins this game starts on Sunday. So if the Nets win today, they get a couple days off. They get to prepare for the Celtics. That series will start on Sunday. So that's another advantage for the Brooklyn Nets as well. If you just win tonight, you get a whole lot of time to, get a day off, a lot of rest for, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, assuming they're probably going to be playing big minutes in the playoffs. If we get there and, just win tonight. And I like the mentality that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have and this team has, because I think the team realizes, look, this is a must-win. This is like a Game 7. Because if the Nets lose tonight, they could still get into the postseason. But you don't want it to come down to a one-game scenario. That's the last thing you want. Now, unless if it's a Game 7 in a series, that's a whole different story because it's one game, that's great. But it's been the whole series. Like, for the Nets to get down to one game against like a Hornets team that should be beatable, like, you just don't want that, especially for a Nets team that's very hot cold. So get the job done tonight. You can sit back, relax, watch the rest of the play and unfold, and get ready for Boston on Sunday. That's the hope, and that's what I do believe happens. I do have a good feeling about tonight's game. All right, so let's get to the rest of the NBA. So the other playing game tonight is the Timberwolves-Clippers. I'm going to take the Timberwolves in this one. I think the Timberwolves are a very solid team, with the likes of Anthony Edwards. Now, Karl Anthony Towns is out, I believe. Or, no, he's in. He should be in. But if I actually go to... Let me go to this. So, the projected starting lineups tonight for the Timberwolves and the Clippers is Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Marcus Morris, Nicholas Batum, and Zubac. And for the Timberwolves, it's Pat Beverly, it's Pat Bev, D'Lo, Anthony Edwards, Jared Vanderbilt, and Karl Anthony Towns. So I'm gonna roll with the Timberwolves. I think they're a more talented team going into this one. Obviously, Clippers team dealing with a ton of injuries still. Kawhi being out. Anyway, let's get to the hockey. Tonight, Bruins, Blues. You got the Panthers, Ducks, Capitals, Flyers, Sabres, Maple Leafs, Islanders, Penguins, Senators, Red Wings, Wild, Oilers, Predators, Sharks, Blackhawks, Kings, Kraken, Flames, Lightning, Stars, Coyotes, Devils, and the Canucks, Golden Knights. Rangers also tonight. Hurricanes. Rangers coming to this one 47-20-6. Hurricanes coming into the game 47-18-8. Over-under set at 5.5. This game goes on tonight, 7 Eastern on MSG. Huge game tonight. Hurricanes right now are atop the Metropolitan with 102 points. Rangers are right behind them with 100. So if the Rangers can win tonight, this would be huge for the Rangers if they want to win the Metropolitan. As for baseball today, you got the Tigers, Red Sox, Reds, Guardians, White Sox, Mariners, Pirates, Cubs, Rays, A's, Orioles, Brewers, Angels, Marlins, Braves, Nationals, Twins, Dodgers, Royals, Cardinals, Rangers, Rockies, Astros, Diamondbacks, and Padres, Giants. Mets are back in action today against the Phillies. Mets are 3-2, Phillies are 3-1. Tyler McGill's on the mound for the Mets, and Zach Wheeler makes his season debut for the Phillies. The over/under set at 8.5. Tonight, 6:45 p.m. Eastern on MLB Network and SNY. And as for the Yankees and the Blue Jays tonight, Yankees are 2-2, Blue Jays 3-1. Second game of the 4-game set. By the way, that Mets-Phillies series is the second game of a 3-game set. Blue Jays got Yusei Kikuchi on the mound, and the Yankees, Nasty Nestor, makes his debut. Over/under set at 9.5 tonight, 7:05 p.m. Eastern on Yes. And as for fantasy baseball, got a lot going on tonight. I'm currently winning at both leagues, 221 to 149. That's my secondary league, and my main league, which is I'm winning 204 to 162. So my lineup is looking pretty solid. I do have some injury updates to report in my one league. Actually, in both leagues, I have some injury updates. So Avisail Garcia, who I have in both leagues, is day-to-day. He was scratched from yesterday's lineup against the Angels. So undisclosed, nobody knows why, but he was scratched, so you hope it's not an injury. But we'll see. Taijuan Walker yesterday left his start early after the second inning. He will undergo an MRI today on his shoulder. So MRI is never a good thing when you got to do those, but you hope that it's nothing major. Yeah, other than that, not much else is going on for the fantasy baseball. I mean, I got my usual lineup out there, but I'm still trying to figure out, guys who are starting, guys who aren't. So, and yeah, that will do it for today's podcast. Enjoy all the sports tonight. A lot going on. Rangers, Islanders, Nets, Yankees, Mets. A whole lot going on. So enjoy it all. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.